9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Well, hello there, everybody. Welcome to Freethought in Florida. Freethought in Florida is a production of the Atheist community of Polk County, a 501c3 nonprofit organization. I'm Sarah Ray. I'm one of the directors of the Atheist community of Polk County, and it is Friday, April 30th, 2021. We're almost into May already. Holy crap. It's the secular week of action. We're going to talk a little bit about that. The Florida session has ended, so we'll talk about that. And so joining me tonight, Devin Graham.
Hola.
Devin, how are you?
Huh? Well, better.
Yeah.
my bruises on my face are healing, so things are great.
You look better.
Thank you.
Look better on the outside. I know.
The inside.
I know the inside takes longer to heal
than
the outside. But the damage you did to that truck.
I got hit by a truck as a pedestrian, everyone, last week.
Wow.
So I'm lucky to be alive.
It's a miracle.
It is.
And we're thankful
of modern science.
We're thankful to have you still with us. And Eddie, welcome to the show.
Hey, what's up, everybody?
Hey, why don't you let's start off and just get to know you a little bit. Talk about sort of your story and where you come from and how you got into sort of the atheist organizing and all of that stuff.
Yeah, thanks for having me on the show. This was a pleasant surprise. Reach out.
Thanks for doing it at the last minute too.
Very last
I got you. Yeah. Not that I wasn't first pick. I got you. Okay. But yeah, I just recently created a YouTube channel called Positively Atheist, and just discussing my experience as an atheist. I've been one for about 10 years now. So, and before that, I was a Christian minister, working in and out of churches, proselyting children for Jesus' sake.
Mm-hmm.
And, and also served as a campus missionary for Youth for Christ for a couple. Yeah, I know. I've got a lot of atoning to do. Believe me, yes. But now having been an atheist for about 10 years now, I finally kind of just wanted to kind of get out there and kind of make just kind of put out some information to help other people who have gone through what I've went through, who are either going through what I went through, and who are maybe struggling with the after effects or dealing. It's a big change to go from a minister to an atheist. So I totally get it. There's a lot of trauma that happens to people in this transition. And I feel like I have some insight that can help some people in their journey, and also maybe even help people kind of reevaluate their faith positions. I think that's a win for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. So what sort of flavor of religion were you a pastor of?
So I was raised Southern. I changed my lights to pink, which I like, but it's they also.
It's fancy. I need some color lights.
Yeah. So I was born and raised in the Southern Baptist denomination of Christianity. When Southern Baptist is, it's funny because you throw out these terms, Southern Baptist, whatever, and you think you know what other people are thinking when you use those terms, but I come to find out you really don't. So I went to a very country style, Southern Baptist church where it's very, very clinical in its approach, not clinical scientifically, but in any sense of the word, but clinical and very detached from the personal experiences involved in it. It wasn't very emotional. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Norman Rockwell. It's like a Norman Rockwell painting.
Yeah, pretty much. Yes.
It looks good. Looks
yes.
good from the outside.
Yep. So I ended up moving over to I got baptized at 9 years old, and I ended up moving to an Assembly of God church because they had a really cool youth program. Middle school, they really got us hooked. We went there on Friday night. Every Friday night, I was there Sundays, Sunday mornings, Sunday nights, Wednesday nights, Friday nights, and then of course other activities as well. Is really central to me as a person. So I was involved in the worship ministries and all that kind of fun stuff. And then so that's in the Assemblies of God. Now I'm just talking, so let me know if I'm going further than the answer.
You go right ahead. No, you're good.
Go for it.
Yeah.
Okay. So we had in the Assemblies of God, they had a lot of different doctrines than I was raised with as a Southern Baptist. In the Assemblies of God, one of the key doctrines was stuff like being able to pray and heal the sick, intercessory prayer, demonic, casting out demons, and speaking in tongues was a big one for the Assemblies of God. And so, a lot of people don't know what speaking in tongues is about. Some people have heard the term, some people haven't. Just imagine somebody just making up a bunch of random words.
Yeah.
Yep.
And just stringing them together. I mean, that's quite literally what it was.
Devin will now give us a demonstration. No.
Yeah. I can do it on command, so
you're welcome to do it.
No, I did it on my first YouTube video, and I was like, I probably should cut that. It just sounds really silly because it is.
It is silly. That's why you got to do it.
I had to just put it out there for entertainment value. Mm-hmm. So, anyways, yeah, basically, the speaking in tongues was kind of a big part of my story and what happened, my experiences involved in religion, because it kind of is like a gateway drug for other activities in the religion. Speaking in tongues is basically the idea behind it comes from the book of Acts, where the story is told about the apostles supposedly being able to go out in the streets and preach the gospel to all these people of different languages, and they hadn't learned the language, right? This is the story in Acts. Well, so the most modern churches interpret that as like an apostolic, like a gift of the Spirit. It's like just like the gift of being able to lay your hands on somebody to heal them. You can have this gift also where you can speak another language, and it's more like it's a ministry kind of thing. Well, to get to that point where you're getting people to speak nonsense, you have to really work them up emotionally. So there's like a lot of emotional work that gets done on you to prepare you for that moment. So there's a lot of times they're like crying at the altar during worship. There's a very heightened like emotional appeal to everything they're doing, because they're working you in the subconsciously to get you this place where you will intentionally talk gibberish. Mm-hmm. So it's a crazy moment, because when you get to that point, you've been so emotionally worked. That happened to me when I was 13 ish, and I was in my youth pastor's arms, as weird as it sounds, crying at the altar, and the music's playing real loud, and we have been praying for hours. And I remember saying, I just feel like I feel so unworthy. And I remember using those words, and I was crying. And he's like, look, you're worthy. God, Jesus loves you. And he's like, you'll just open your mouth and start talking, and it'll come out. So, and this is what happened. I'm 13 years old, right? So I might have been young. It's about that same, because I was close to middle school age. And I remember that moment, and like why this is important to me, because I feel like I feel like it really shows the power, the brainwashing potential in religion, and how it's reinforced over and over again, right? And these experiences, especially with young children. And I remember, and so the reason why this is important to my story is because this is very personal to me. This is something that I was actively doing. I wasn't this wasn't like a belief on the shelf that a lot of Christians have, like they just have these beliefs, right? They believe in God is powerful, God is great, God heals people. And they take those beliefs and they just kind of put them on a shelf and they just kind of have those to kind of in their minds, right? This was an actual thing that I was actually doing. I was doing this action, and looking back, it's very embarrassing. It's kind of like your old high school yearbook photos. You look back and like, oh my God, what was I thinking? Similar experience with this, and so you can imagine the pride that's involved in that too. By the way, anytime that activity is questioned, even by yourself, it just makes you very uncomfortable, right? Because you're coming up against this wall of possible like extreme embarrassment. I would get up and we would do what's called public utterances, and so this is where interrupt me if I'm going on too long.
No,
this is great.
So when I in the Assemblies of God, they taught that there is the gift of tongues, right? But then there's the I need to mute that sound, otherwise everybody's going to think their Facebook Messenger is going off.
I don't.
I didn't hear it.
Actually.
Oh, okay, good. Okay, it was my Facebook Messenger went off, and
no, I didn't hear anything. You're good.
Anyway, so I digress. So in the Assemblies of God, they taught that yes, there is this gift of tongues, right? There's this gift that you can have as a special gift, but there's also this personal prayer language, and this is where it gets so personal. So the idea is that you have this language that only you and God can understand. And in the Assemblies of God, they taught that. In the Assemblies of God, they taught that you don't have to speak in tongues to be saved, but if you want to be what's called filled, if you want to know if you are filled with the Holy Spirit, then you will speak in tongues. So the gift, the personal prayer language of tongues is essentially for the Assemblies of God. It's the proof that you are filled with the Holy Spirit.
Gotcha.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So you could be saved, you could be a Christian and not speak in tongues, but those people who spoke in tongues, they had I would say a special connection with God, but that they had the Holy Spirit that was filling them, and they could be more trusted with ministry. They could be more trusted with all kinds of things. You're a much more trustworthy person if you've spoken in tongues. Essentially, that's the whole character. So once again, you're getting into this whole character development that gets ingrained to you as a young person, and you're growing up with this. So when I became an adult, I had been giving what they call public utterances multiple times. And this is where like you will literally stand up in the middle of a church service and speak out this language. And then you would have somebody else in the room, quote unquote, interpret it, which is the weirdest phenomenon ever. A lot of times people would go up and speak in tongues for like 3 or 4 minutes. And then like the interpreter would come up and he'd say like,
give a whole sermon. Oh, something short.
Yeah. Like somebody just get up and start talking and say, God wants you to know he loves you.
But were they ever correct?
The most
based on like what you knew?
By the way, the most inefficient language ever, by the way.
Yeah, right.
Oh,
well, here's the thing. There's no way to know if it's correct because there is no interpretation.
Right.
This is literally, they've recorded these things happening, and there's no structure to it at all. It's literally just the repeating of vowels and consonants and the rolling of tongues.
So you kind of said the same thing every time you did it, like the same.
I had a similar feel to it, like similar, like a
patois.
Yeah, it was like you're a feel for it. They all have very similar things, because this is a taught behavior pattern. But the reason why I say this is because by the time I was an adult, I said, man, I was like, this is just part of me, right? And so like, I never even questioned it. And as a result, I didn't question anything else. I never questioned like Jonah in the belly of a whale for 3 days. I never questioned any of that stuff. Like, I don't ever remember sitting down like, does this make sense?
Yeah.
No, I just never did it.
Yeah.
So.
And what age were you indoctrinated into the belief system?
Well, it's hard to tell. Like my parents weren't very super religious, but they were they're typical American religious type family, you know, where Jesus is kind of like talked about. We didn't really sit and have dinner together, but if we did, there was sometimes prayer, sometimes not. My dad he had his own spiritual kind of belief system. He still does. And, you know, typical Americanized Christian family where you have like baby Jesus, you know, praying to baby Jesus. And,
That's crazy.
And well, the thing was, so when I became an adult, I basically, I was ascribing, the only thing I ever focused on was getting involved in church work. So I was studying to become a youth pastor at a young age. Went to an internship with a guy who I really respected. I liked him a lot. And in fact, he was my best man in my, back in my previous marriage, like when I was married, he was my best man at the time. So, and the thing is that all of this was kind of like building on a foundation on top of each other, right? So I'm like, I've got this experience that's propelling me into more like deeper experiences that are pushing me into. We used to do things like praying for the sick, and there was one time I thought I saw a guy floating off the ground. I had convinced myself that me and several other people had convinced ourselves that that we were doing an exorcism with this guy, and this guy was floating off the ground. Nice. Like we convinced ourselves that this was the case. Now looking back, I can see what was happening. There's like 10 of us around this poor guy who walked in off the street, and we're praying on him and pushing our hands on him in a circle. So imagine somebody sitting in the middle of a circle of like 10 or 12 big guys, all pushing on his chest like this in a circle. We were pushing him off the ground. Yeah. You know, looking back, I can see this now, but we had convinced ourselves that this guy was floating. Yeah. I did a sermon on it. I talked about how there was this guy floating, right? Like I straight up you know, and this is where we get into like a lot of the embarrassing parts, because like you're like, how is this possible, right? And so one of the things was when long story short, I ended up working for Youth for Christ, which that's a whole nother story, which I'm happy to talk about whatever I can with that. That we literally were like walking on the school campuses in South Mississippi for like all the campuses, like just walking up and up, like knew all the kids, knew all crazy situation.
Is there anyone that actually still needs saving in South Mississippi? I mean, let's be honest. Like this is a cakewalk.
Pretty much, yeah. Like
I'm here to bring people to Jesus. I can't find anybody that doesn't already know Jesus.
Legit. Well, you know, we always had there was always like the next level, you know.
Yeah.
Like, so we saw all the people around us as just like kind of like lukewarm Christians who weren't serious about their faith, and like, you know, unless they were like on our mission doing our work kind of thing. So, and like I said, just interrupt me if you need to, but I say all this to say I became a youth pastor at some point in all this, and as part of and I became a youth pastor in the Assemblies of God. So I was actually serving as a youth pastor. And I like to joke around. It's like the shortest youth pastor stint ever, because I was there for like 6 months. True story.
Not enough time to get benefits, even.
No.
Not that there probably wasn't any.
Yeah. So basically, when I got into that position, I had been going through a transition of just like trying to think through some things in my faith, right? Like think through like specifically, like I felt a little uncomfortable about speaking in tongues, to be honest with you. Just as like there was this, I mean, obviously I felt uncomfortable, right? I mean, there was something inside me that was just like, there was just always this doubt, right? And we would even talk about it in the church, talk about that doubt of whether or not it's real, right? We would have these conversations, but it was just like, hey, just trust that it's real, right? Just have faith that it's real. Bypass the doubt. Well, somebody sent me a book called The Gift of Tongues. Well, I can't remember who wrote it, but it's a little pamphlet book. And in the book, he basically goes through, he says what's called a cessationalist, which is a person who doesn't believe in the active current gifts of the Holy Spirit. Mm-hmm. So think of like really traditional Southern, like Baptist churches. Yep. They are against this whole spiritual like gifts thing, mm-hmm. right? They believe that all the gifts stopped with the apostles. Now, in my opinion, the way they got to that is because Christians all face a big problem, which is why aren't amputees healed today? Right?
It's been a few thousand years since the last miracle. Come on.
Yeah.
They need to step it up.
Conveniently, as science has taken hold, miracles mm-hmm. have also digressed. So these fundamental like cessationalists, they've solved the problem by just saying, oh, well, that's because God doesn't do miracles anymore, right? Yep. Or he doesn't work through in that way anymore. So they solved that problem. Well, anyways,
this is how I was raised. So,
so I got this book and I started reading it, and the book basically goes through every scripture reference regarding speaking in tongues, or what they call babbling tongues. Mm-hmm. And basically, the book draws the conclusion that the modern day use of tongues as assemblies of God are using it is at the very least unbiblical. And also in the very worst potential case, demonic.
Mm-hmm.
So
shame.
So I read this this book, and I'm like, I couldn't help. This is probably my first step into critical thinking. I'll be honest with you. When it came to it might have been my first step in critical thinking in my life. To be honest with you, it was the first time I'd ever like really had a moment of critical thinking. So, and for me, it was like I'm faced with a truth that doesn't line up with my personal experience, right? Mm-hmm. So like I was confronted by this, and it really bothered me because I had been going through this period of like really like starting to value the scripture, starting to value like studying the scripture. I mean, before that, I hadn't even hardly read my Bible. Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah.
But I started getting this thing where I've started studying the Bible, and like, it's funny because people say like the easiest way to make an atheist is to have somebody read the Bible.
Yep. Yeah. So
hey, let's we have somebody on the line. Let's take a call.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, okay.
They're speaking in tongues.
Right. Oh, that would be so great. Let's see what happens.
I'm so fascinated by the speaking in tongues thing.
863. You're on Freethought in Florida.
It's really not impressive.
Who's this?
Hey, Sarah, it's Linda.
Linda, how are you?
Linda.
Yeah, good. Hey, Eddie.
Hi.
Hey, Eddie, I so get you. So, yeah, right, because tongues, you were supposed to have an interpreter first, according to the Bible, right? So the interpreter identifies himself first before tongues were even given. When have you ever seen that in the Pentecostal church?
No, it's not like that.
No, you don't, right? Okay,
well, Linda knows her shit. I should have warned you.
Yeah. All right. Well, listen. Hey, Eddie, I was a worship leader for 25 years in the Charismatic Church.
Oh, wow.
I was a worship leader for 25 years in the Charismatic Church. Exactly. But it was all so selfish. It was the sensation, like you were saying. It was all about capitalizing on this self-centered, I've got to feel good, and I'm really spiritual if I feel real good, and it's just a bunch of bullshit. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm glad you were a youth pastor for 6 months. Good job.
Well, don't worry. I did a lot of damage while I was in Youth for Christ, so don't worry about all that.
Oh my gosh, Youth for Christ! Don't even get me started on them.
Yeah.
Linda, speak in tongues.
And I got the interpretation.
Okay, now Eddie, interpret it. Yeah.
Eddie, go for it. Interpret.
He says, "Thank you for all that you guys do."
Wonderful.
That is awesome. Oh my God.
And if that agrees with your spirit, then it's true. If it doesn't, then it's of the devil.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
awesome.
insane.
Yeah. Well, and you know being on the worship bands, how hard we work it up. Like there's a little joke that would go around, like it's like worship is like the Christian orgasm. Like you're just like working it up.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh my god.
Oh, I can play some music for make you guys cheer up right now.
Play a little Rich Mullins.
No, I just do I could sing your love forever for like 50 verses.
Oh, good lord, no.
Yeah, right.
No.
Work up some cymbal swells.
There you go.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm. I'll have you guys at the altar in like 10 minutes.
I'm loving this.
Oh goodness.
Oh
Well,
my God, you are so right.
Linda, we love you.
Love
Hey,
you
check
too,
me out.
Sarah.
Check me on YouTube. Positively Atheist. Shameless plug.
Oh my god.
All right. Thanks
That's
for calling in,
hysterical.
Linda. We'll talk to you again soon.
All right, Sarah. Bye.
Thank you.
You said the
I
phrase
love Linda.
lukewarm Christian, and that was a phrase that I haven't heard in years.
Yeah, that was
That was such a like a pejorative. That's what you call like the people that you really hated. Like they're just lukewarm Christians.
Oh yeah.
Oh God, I remember that. Okay, so I got to go back. I'm completely fascinated by the speaking in tongues because I came from Sarah. I think we just talked about this. We came from like the same church sect or whatever, like the pretty standard evangelical Christian Church of Christ. So like when we were like, at least I was taught that if someone is speaking in tongues, everybody in that room has to know what the hell that person is saying because they have been instantly Rosetta Stoned and they need to. And if no one else understands that it's from the devil. But is that what you were saying, that like that's the gift of tongues, but the personal language is the gibberish?
Yeah. They claim they solved the problem by because many Christians would say, well, if you don't have an interpretation of this, then you're just speaking gibberish, and it's it's not Christian. It's not what a Christian should be doing. Christians should be speaking, and so they get around that problem by this doctrine of baptism of the Holy Spirit, with evidence of speaking in tongues. So, you could come to and say, "Oh, that's not Christian. It's not biblical because you don't have interpreters." Say, "Oh, no, I wasn't using the gift of tongues. I was using my personal prayer language." So
there's a loophole for everything.
Workaround.
Yes,
Yep.
yeah, perfect loophole. So you
Love
can't get me. You just can't. You try, you just can't get me.
So
It's like a wet noodle, just like.
So let's change gears then and talk a little bit about how that sort of started breaking down for you and led to your leaving the faith.
Yeah, so basically I got this book and I read it and I can't agree to this anymore. I can't do it. And it was a shocking moment for me because, like I said, I had a bunch of stuff piled on top of this belief, right? Like there's a lot of experiences I had. There was a lot of things that resulted from this activity that now all of a sudden I'm having to come to grips with. I'm like, was I practicing demonic rituals the whole time? Was I brainwashed? Like, how did I have this personal experience, but it didn't line up with what the Bible says? It didn't make any sense to me. So that kind of like, I think it shook my system. It shocked it. It kind of like was like, it didn't compute, right? Like, so here I am, a youth pastor in the Assemblies of God. One of our 16 fundamental truths I think it's 16. It's been a while. One of our fundamental truths. Somebody's going to call me like, no, it's 17. It's 17. No, one of our fundamental truths in the Assemblies of God is this doctrine. I'm like, here I am, a youth pastor, and I don't believe it. And this was like a regular thing you're supposed to preach on. It's like one of the distinct doctrines in the Assemblies of God church. So I'm a youth pastor, and I'm like, I don't know what to do. Like my pastor even said to me, he's like, hey, I'm going to be doing a series on. I think he started suspecting something. Like I was a double agent or something. for the Southern Baptist. Yeah, but I was just like, I think he started noticing something. He started like kind of pushing me to do a sermon series on the topic, on this fundamental truth. And of course, I really couldn't do it. I just couldn't bring myself. Now, simultaneously, I had been going on this road of expository preaching. I started following like Mark Driscoll. I don't know if you guys remember Mark.
Oh God.
Oh yeah.
I was
Back in the
big
days.
in the Marsdale Church at the time. Big into the expository preaching style. I started getting into Reformed theology. And I started, because remember, I was on this path of like kind of revaluing the scripture, because I was trying to find what was true when I was confronted with some of these inconvenient facts about speaking in tongues and other issues.
And you're not prepared to leave either.
No.
So
I was also having conversations with a buddy of mine who was amazing Christian, but he was a Calvinist and I was an Arminian. So for some of you guys who don't understand the difference, Calvinists believe in God's sovereignty, that God is sovereign above all things. And Arminians tend to err on the side of free will, where man has this free will that can override essentially God's sovereignty, essentially that God gives us a choice. So there is this huge chasm between. So I was looking at all this, I'm reading the scriptures. As I was doing this, I was getting involved with Mark Driscoll's ministry and Way of the Master with Great Comfort. And so I'm going deep now. Okay.
Oh, that's deep. Yeah.
At this point, I'm going about as deep as you can go.
That's real deep.
Yeah.
Think about the banana.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So
Behold
The
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 holy
atheist's
banana.
nightmare.
What's funny is I never even heard about the banana story until after I left my faith.
Wow.
I feel like that's something he doesn't want to advertise anymore.
No.
Oh, but he
wrote a
goes
book on-
by
but he wrote a
Banana Man.
book on it.
Yeah.
He does.
Yeah.
He wrote a book on. Never mind.
Yeah.
Oh, screw him. Screw him.
Yeah, so basically I was just sitting here like okay, so I'm going down this deep rabbit trail of sorry, I gotta send this out real quick. I was sending somebody a link to this video.
Oh, great.
So I'm sorry.
Nice.
So I'm going down this rabbit trail, and all of a sudden I'm like, as a Assembly of God youth pastor, I'm preaching expository preaching, which is verse by verse to the Bible. I stopped going with topical, which is a huge deal. And the Assemblies of God, once again, is this whole emotional experience. You're trying to build this emotional roller coaster to get people connected on this emotional level. So topical preaching was a huge deal in the Assemblies of God. You pick a random topic and then you just literally find a Bible verse to fit it. I could do it right now. If you pick a topic, I can find a Bible verse and then I can create a sermon based on that topic.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hey, you got a flat tire? Okay, we can talk about this. How you should be filled with God's Holy Spirit, and and if the Holy Spirit's like tire, the green goo you put in tires, it keeps you filled up. I'm just making this up.
Yeah.
So I started teaching expository preaching. Well, in the Assemblies of God, that wasn't kind of a thing. That was nobody's really doing that. And I think he started sensing some of these changes. Now, ironically, our youth group was blowing up. We were at max capacity every Wednesday night. We were we couldn't. There's times we literally couldn't fit the kids in the room.
Yeah.
So I say all that to say was when he started approaching me about teaching on speaking in tongues, he basically was like, "Look, I want you to start doing this." I said, "Look, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to close my youth ministry on Wednesday nights, and we're going to bring them into there so they can just hear you preach on it, because I didn't want to create a stir." And we did that. I thought I averted a disaster. Well, he eventually, within within the first week, he approached me, or second week, he approached me. He's like, "Hey, what's the deal? I've noticed this, that, the other thing." And I had to tell him. I told him what I told you guys. I'm like, "Here's the journey I've been on, and I'm just not convinced that this is a thing."
Yep.
And I told him at the time, yeah, so that's the shortest youth ministry stint ever. So,
Oh, I don't know.
I think there have been a few before.
Well,
before you.
actually, I did have a shorter one, but that was because we ended up in like a weird, crazy cult or something. But anyways, that's a whole nother story. That wasn't. We weren't technically paid for that, so yeah. But anyways,
I'm a fan of cults.
Yeah. Okay, so that's a whole other thing. But how we define cults and all that.
Oh,
but
All of them.
yeah, all of them.
All of them.
So I basically got to the place where I was like, he literally is like, well, I told him, I said, look, well, this isn't like a primary issue for me, so I'm okay staying. He's like, well, it's a primary issue for me. Pack your stuff up. You're done.
Yep.
Damn.
So yeah, so this was this a lot of this was a lot of stuff that happened back to back for me, and I was like, now some people are going to hear this and say, oh, Eddie, you've had a bad experience, but I really didn't. I actually really appreciated the experiences I had in my churches. I never had a bad experience. They were very meaningful. In fact, I'm sure we might talk about this on the show, but I'm a firm believer that everybody needs that kind of community in their life that the church provides for people, that has provided for people traditionally, of some sort. Everybody, we're a tribal species. We need that. So I really appreciate my experience, but to make longer story short, at this point, I was faced with a bunch of crises. I had no applicable job skills. I don't know if I can cuss on here, but
sure. Fuck yeah.
I became very good at bullshitting people. I mean, so that was a good. So maybe I could be like no offense to used car salesmen, I shouldn't say that.
It's a good trope though. I mean,
I could have just
everyone knows what it means.
We all knew exactly what
I could have just started my own church. Okay, I could have just done that.
Yeah.
So I basically started going deeper down this road, and I became I stepped out of the ministry. I tried to find I started working on trying to find my career, my goals, my own life. And meanwhile, I'm still dealing with this internal trauma of like, wow, I used to speak in tongues. I'm not speaking in tongues anymore. Like, what does this mean? Where do I belong as far as community is concerned?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Like, it was a lot for me. And I was like, but I think it created like this like thing in me where like I was like, that's it. I've got to find out what the truth is here, right? Like I got like it was such a shock to me that this happened. And I think so what ended up happening was I ended up going full-fledged like way of the master. I was literally street preaching. Yeah, so I basically devolved into this lonely wanderer in the streets yelling about Jesus.
Wow.
If you ever wonder this is back in Florida. If you guys, ladies and gentlemen, if you ever wonder how that happens to people, this is how it happens. This is the story of whenever you see a guy in the street, he's got a similar story.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, but he just hasn't found his way out yet.
Yeah, because once you go that deep, you're done. I mean, you're there. Like, and there's nothing. Once you go to that level, so in fact, I actually have a no trespass warrant. I have no trespass warrant against me on a particular on a Jehovah's Witness temple in Florida.
Oh,
nice.
Because I decided I want to go out there and preach in front of their temple. So I had like a preaching war.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's kind of like a dance battle, but not as cool.
No,
not nearly as cool. No. That's awesome.
Oh man.
We have a lot of those street preachers that are on our campus, and they're intense. And I've always wondered like how they got to be that way. And now
it's a dark path.
It is. They are dark people too. So that makes sense.
You get to a point of a lot of misery and pain to get to that place. To be honest with you.
Gotcha.
Well, let's pull on that thread that you just mentioned, the idea of like humanity needing community, which is a thing that religion provides, that the secular community historically has not been as great at, but I think we're getting better. I think we're getting better. I think, I think we're trying. There are, yeah.
Definitely. There's been a lot of really good stuff happening.
There's what I think's interesting about us as a group of people is that like because we are so different and most of us not authoritarian in nature, or have moved away from that idea, that what that group looks like, what that community looks like, is so different to a lot of people, and different to a lot of people depending on where they are in their journey. Like, I don't know, 5 years ago or so, we had someone invite us to come to a local UU or congregation, and I was just like, I don't like. I kind of know what you're about, and you're not like. Oh, Eddie didn't turn into Satan when he disappeared.
This isn't. So it's not just me.
Well, no, it must
This is
not be
not-
just you.
They're
No,
back.
I did that.
Oh, okay.
Shit!
I'm
Eddie,
sorry.
no!
I'm so
Tell him,
sorry.
damn it. Okay, this hasn't happened.
Okay.
This happens like
It happens to
5 minutes
nobody
for me.
else
I
but
like
Devin.
where you're
Don't know
going.
what's-
I was. Yeah. Anyways.
Shit.
That's okay.
Sorry.
So the idea was like, oh, hey, you should come to this UU church, and I was like, again, I kind of know what you're about. I kind of know that you're, most of you are
Atheist light.
atheist. Yeah, but I also know that there's a lot of woo that comes in to some of those organizations as well. And so I was like, okay, so you call it a church, it's a congregation, you have a pastor, what do your services look like? Oh, we get together and, hear a speaker and sing songs, but God, that really feels like church to me, and I'm just not about that. Like, that's not what I need for my own community. Like, that's, and if it's you, super great. Like, again, we all need a place that are filled with people who we can come together and fellowship with. That's not a religious specific thing. And that what we each need individually is a little bit different from each other. And so I like that there are a bunch of different sort of styles of group that have sort of formed out of this need for non-religious community.
So you've started a group, right?
I didn't start a group. I founded the North Orlando Oasis chapter.
Okay.
Right.
So
Yeah,
I
tell us about
really
that.
relate to what you're saying, Sarah. And what I relate to is the need for a community, the need to connect is not a religious need.
Yep.
This is a human need. All right. If you look at all other the closest species to us on the evolutionary scale, the closer and closer you get, the more you see this social interaction as being an integral part of a species survival, right? The need for having people around you to help you, the need to want to be inspired, the need to want to have opportunities to connect with people, to build relationships, to the need to be able to express yourself through your talents, right?
Yeah.
These are not religious constructs. These are what it means to be human. So these are human values. So my thing is, like, to me, this is one of the most important conversations the secular community needs to have, because this ties in a lot of things. And I feel like the world in general, as church membership is declining, which is a great thing. We're all happy about this.
Oh yeah.
It does have a potential negative problem, which is you have a lot of people wandering around, not having any real connection to anyone for the first time in human history.
Especially after this COVID thing, I feel like that's amplified
It's
even more so.
yeah.
It's super isolating.
I'll be honest with you. Like, when I became an atheist, for probably the first 4 years, I did not personally know another atheist. Like,
Ditto.
and that was a really lonely experience. I mean, we used to go on vacations with our church friends, and we literally got stopped getting invited to those vacations. Immediately disconnection, right?
Yeah.
And, there's a lot of actual studies that show that humans who lose their religious affiliation community through deconversion or conversion to another religion, or for whatever reason lose that connection, actually have higher suicide rates, higher depression, lower health. Health actually gets worse as you get more isolated. These are, and what I feel like happened was, these are all human constructs, and I think religion grabbed a hold of all these really early on in our history. I think, I read about the topic and learn about it. You know, religion's such a power play because you can tell people, hey, these are the laws. You better, you know, if you don't follow the laws, we'll catch you. We'll put you in jail. But oh, by the way, if you get away with it, don't think you got away with it because God's still watching.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So it's a very powerful play. So I feel like religions has grabbed a hold of all these little things that we need, and they just said, "Oh, this is us. You want community? We provide the community. You want hospitals? We do the hospitals, right?"
Yeah.
And so, yes, I feel the same thing. Like as an atheist, as a non-believer, we all relate to that. We don't want to. We see that, and it's cringeworthy because you know, we hear people say, "Oh, hey, let's get together on Sunday and listen to a band and have a speaker." There's just knee-jerk reactions, like, you know, like, no, I'm not. My lights are going off because it's like, no, yeah, I'm not. You know, I don't want to hear about you, Jesus, your Lord and Savior, Jesus.
Right.
You know, we don't want to hear about that. And it's like, well, I never say anything about that, but there is this rejection to this, and it's detrimental to in multiple ways. I feel like one of the most important ways is detrimental to us because we don't do well isolated, right? We and for people who have had good experience in religion, it's this easy concept to understand. But for people who either weren't raised in the church or had bad experiences, this is very difficult to understand, right? But I think as a secular community, we have underestimated the place that religious institutions have held in our society, and we're so quick to celebrate everybody leaving. We haven't really thought about what happens, where these people are going, what are they doing. And so this is why you have so many people out there who don't believe in a God, but now have some kind of super vague belief in religion, like an energy source, or
I'm spiritual, not
religious.
religious.
Which on the surface, we all, as atheists, say, yay, if you believe in religion. But one of the problems we're having is now you have people just not believing anything. They just don't. They literally don't believe anything. They're just so far out. They don't even like. And I think it's feeding a lot of the conspiracy theories. It's feeding a lot of this. You have this huge subculture of people who are now without shepherds, and they're just they're literally like sheep wandering around the forest, running to and from. And I feel like as humanity is really as us as a species, we are struggling to find our place. Like, okay, we know we're not religious anymore, but what are we?
Yeah.
You know? And I see secular communities like Oasis and other things like that as critically important pieces to basically to help with that. Because the other part of it too is, and when I say that secular community doesn't really understand this connection, there's a lot of stuff that the churches do behind the scenes that we just take for granted. You know, every hospital around me has some kind of religious institution's name on it, right? They're funding this stuff. They're now, of course, they're doing it through tax-free business shelters,
and they're refusing to serve people they don't like.
Correct. So
we'll talk about this later.
Yes.
That's our other topic.
Yes.
But religion has got the PR head start on all of this, right? They have
absolutely.
And it's in this go. There was a ministry in Orlando that would literally have black vans, and they would drive around and find prostitutes and give them a business card. And they would say to the prostitute, say, look, if you want to get out of this lifestyle, call our number. Call our number, and we will arrange a pickup. And they would literally go and stage a kidnapping. They would kidnap these girls, take them off to some retreat for restorative therapy and indoctrination. So they saved them life of prostitution to put them right back into another life prostitution, essentially mental prostitution.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but I say all that to say is they got them off the street.
Yeah. You know? If they didn't want to be there to begin with, then I admire that.
Right.
So
they got the
to an extent,
or even simple things like in my neighborhood over here, every year there's a big pumpkin patch. It's really nice. Everybody takes pictures there. They it's on Facebook. It builds a certain level, on a low level, it builds a sense of community between all of us, right? So this is the thing that churches and religious institutions have been doing for thousands of years. Well, the problem is, as they're dying off, what's replacing that for us? You know, Facebook.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
Let's be honest here.
Social
like,
media.
That
there
ain't
ain't
great.
nothing. There's nothing real on Facebook. All of it's fake. All of it's pretentious. All of it is just complete phoniness. You know, even if you want to be an authentic person on Facebook, you can't. You know,
Right, Sarah?
Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
So
We weren't going there, Devin.
We're not.
Okay,
End
good.
that discussion now.
Okay.
but this is this situation. I feel like groups like Oasis. So I was in the same place. Like I said, I know an atheist for 4 years when I became a Christian, which I didn't get into the final part of my story, but we can talk about this some other time. But I was struggling with that. So like, and I legitimately miss those connections I have with people. I mean, it's, you know, Mark Driscoll, actually, funny enough, he had a sermon where he was talking about parenting advice. And I actually still remember it to this day. And one of the things he said was, you know, people ask me, is it quality over quantity when it comes to raising your children? Like having those special moments with them. And he said, it's actually, and I know this is funny coming from an atheist. I'm giving a summary of Mark Driscoll's, yeah, but I understand the cringeworthy factor of this. But I will say that what he said was, it's both. You have to have the quantity to find those quality moments. And if any of you guys have kids, you understand what he's saying. And that's the same way with all of us. You don't just make friends, like, especially as an adult. How do you make friends? Going to the gas station or going to the bar? You know, like you just don't. You don't make quality friends at a gas station and bars and this kind of stuff. Well, the thing that church was so good at was every week people got together from the community, rubbed elbows, interacted with each other. They learned something new. They had a brief, friendly interaction with a bunch of people who they met. And by the way, they also have something in common as far as their values are concerned.
Yeah.
So now, if you need a babysitter, guess what? Super easy to find a babysitter.
Yep.
If you need a job, super easy to find a job.
Yep.
Yeah.
Life is just easier. I'm going to do a series called "Life is Easier" when you're part of a good church, because
it's true.
Anyways, I was going to tie that into it, but I'll let you guys.
No, it's fine. Go ahead. I'm enjoying this.
Like I said, just interrupt me. I can talk. So I have the
former preacher. We know.
I don't have the best words, so I don't have the best words. So long story short, we have this situation where I think as a society, and I was feeling this, I was like, dang, man, I miss those opportunities. Like, you listen, if you want to start a business, it's super easy to do when you're part of a church. You start a tree service. Hey, by the way, pass out some business cards. Boom, your business is taking off, right?
Oh, yeah. Totally.
The secular community does not have this type of situation for the most part. We don't. And we are lone wolves run around town, and the religious institutions. And I tell people, get part of a good secular community, even if you don't care about the community aspect. Just the ability to protect yourself in a sense. And when I say protect yourself, meaning the ability to have power and influence in society, having the PR ability, you know, like being able to
have people to sign your petitions.
People sign your petitions. You need to get something done. You need to get some activism. How do you think these people? How do you think they get all these people out at abortion clinics holding signs up?
Sure,
they have churches promoting to their congregants these events, and even if 2 or 3 people come out from each church, you have 10, 20, 30 people coming out who never even met each other.
And now they're even more closer. They're closer together even.
A couple of comments from the chat I want to share. Dan says religious groups as a construct are often exclusionary, whereas secular groups tend to be more inclusive of varying views. And I think your mileage might vary on that depending on sort of where you are and how old white cishet dude your group might be. Because we definitely do have a diversity problem in the secular movement. Of reaching out to people beyond the old white cishet dude group to open that up. And then Linda says, but religion doesn't offer community; it demands conformity. And I thought that was interesting because, yes, and perhaps the community is a sidecar or part of the carry along with it. Yeah. Like, well, so think about this. Every church community that I was with, that I'd ever been involved in, when I left, what happened? I got love bombed until I didn't respond and come back. And then they forgot. Like, then they just left. They left it to go, and that was the end of it. Like,
like you have one final chance.
Yep.
Oh yeah, I got that. Well, if you're okay, if if I chime in on some of those questions.
Please, absolutely. Yeah.
So, bringing this full circle to Oasis, how I got involved in Oasis. Well, I understand this. So let me just throw this out there real quick. As an example, in Oasis, we are an organization, we're not an atheist organization, right? But we are geared for atheists and non-believers. That's the basically the intention. In fact, if you look at our logo, it actually has the green atheist circle, which I just learned what that meant recently. But literally in our bylaws, we do not discriminate against religion. So you could be a Christian and get on and become a member of our staff or leadership. We don't discriminate against religion, sexual preference, anything like that. So one of the things I was looking for when Oasis got started, because there was a pastor who came out on national television as an atheist, and his name is literally slipping in my mind right now, but he came on national television a couple of years back around the same time that I became an atheist. Well, when he did that, about half of his congregants said, yeah, this is all bullshit. We don't believe it anyways. So they kind of left with him. Well, through the process, they would go out and hang out and have coffee or whatever. And a couple of them got to thinking, they said, well, we kind of are all starting to miss having that community. Do you think we could do something like that ourselves?
Yeah.
And so this is how the idea Oasis was basically birthed. It came from like, okay, so if we wanted to have a community that had a similar experience and feel, what would be those? But we wanted it to be inclusive. We wanted to be secular in nature, void of religious dogmas. Like Oasis is not anti-religion. We don't talk about religion. We're not like
screw this Presbyterians.
Yeah, we're not hating on religion. There's none of that. There's none of that happened that would be part of an Oasis. So what would it look like for us to have a community of people, and how would we be connected, right? So this is where they came up with like essentially what they call the 5 core values. These are not belief statements. They're just core. They're the values that if you happen, there's no membership with Oasis. If you just happen to hold these values, then you'll feel at home in this group. So like, one is people are more important than beliefs. You know, Oasis is one of their core values. Like it doesn't matter what you believe. We're all both human. How can we connect together in a way that is apart from our belief systems, right? The other, there's a couple more like I have to pull them up, but basically like there's like anyways, so I'm like slipping my mind right now. So like I just want to real quick because I think this ties in the conversation pretty good. So like, in other words, reality is known through reason. In other words, we don't use most religions claim to have special insight into the nature of reality on the basis of supernatural revelations. But as a secular music movement, our communities are committed to exploring, understanding reality on the basis of empirical evidence and rational discourse, right? So, and then there's like meaning comes through making a difference. Human hands solve human problems. Be accepting and be accepted, right? So when I heard the core values and heard how they're trying to form this group, I said, these are values that go for everyone. You could be religious, be non-religious. It doesn't matter, right?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how I was looking for. And this gets the whole conformity thing, you know, because there is this thing where like all conformity isn't evil, right? I don't believe that. I believe that there's, as a society, we have to have some things we conform to in order for society to function. Like you can't, you have to have some type of conformity. You have to something that connects you as people. Yeah. And so I thought, what are the most basic things that I could imagine we would need to be connected in a community? And I felt like the core values that came up with were very good. They touch on all those bases, but they also left enough room that you're not getting involved in anything that's going to take you down dogmatics,
right.
Religious type perspectives. And that is a hard place to get to, because we are, and it is hard to find that balance.
Yeah.
Just like the way, and so like I said, just like the fact that we don't discriminate against a religion. You could be a Christian, you could be a Muslim and be on the board at Oasis, right? That's separate from what we do. We're just like we're not an atheist church. It's just like a school. There's void of religion, right? Yeah. But what they offered though was an opportunity to come together every Sunday, to have live music, to have musicians and art shared from people in the community, opportunities for people to share their thoughts in a critical way, have conversations. So we have like a community moment every week, and we have a main talk presenter. So these are like TED style talks that are based in like science, philosophy, human things that meet with our core values. And then we have times of discussion, so people can discuss the topics and ask questions to the people and make it a discussion instead of there's not preaching.
Yeah.
So all these little elements I liked a lot about it, and that's how I got connected to it, because I felt like that this type of community is necessary. We have to figure out something as a society as we move forward to. I feel like people like Elon Musk are handling like the hardware side of things, but there's like a software side of things that has to happen in our society for us to really get to that next step, to be able, because people are still arguing over what land is holy, and like they're killing each other over arid pieces of dirt.
Yeah.
Right. So in a lot of ways, we're still far, far back behind in our mental, even though we're kind of like spoiled like rich kids with all these cool toys, but not yet the faculties to handle those things. So that's kind of how I got connected to Oasis. So
I know my friend Will Judy, who's one of the assistant state directors for American Atheists. He's really involved in the Houston Oasis group. So I was one of those people, like my entire childhood was revolved around church. Like that was my social group, everything. But I also had a bad experience then. So I don't think, I've always been resistant to these type of groups. And so what if I were to walk in your door, you said there's TED style talks, what do I expect? Like, are there hymns?
Well, okay, so there's a couple of really important distinctions about this. First of all, we're a secular organization. There's no gods that we involve in what we're doing. We're literally just a bunch of people who are getting together to learn and grow and to share our gifts and talents in a way that makes the world a better place. If you really think about it, that's basically what it is. So you don't have to worry, I have people I'll be honest with you. I like my Sundays, right? I don't I've enjoyed not going to church, right? It's nice.
It went from my least favorite day growing up to now it's like my favorite day of the week. I love it.
Exactly.
Love Sundays.
But it really sucks when someone dies in your family and you don't have anybody around you to be there for you, or you lose your job because of really bad circumstances, and you end up having you get hit by a truck, or you're stuck in bed, and your only way of recourse is to go to some dirty, dank government office where you feel like a piece of trash, So what I tell people is short term, not participating in things like this works out, especially if you have a little community. But long term, we're looking at what's the best way to live your life. And the truth is, to have community is very valuable. To have people that you can connect with and that you can lean on is very valuable. So when I say the most important thing of what Oasis is about having that community. The Sunday events, gatherings, while they are distinctive as far as one of the things that they do, It's not the point. The point is you're building these relationships over time. And so I say all to say, people who I know who live in the areas of Oasis Chapter start off usually, I'll go check it out. But they end up going back week after week. Now remember, there's no God telling them they have to do this. There's nobody's telling them, oh, if you don't come to church, to a gathering, you're going to hell, right?
Yeah.
But they're doing it because they just enjoy it. They enjoy the connection. And I went to one myself, and I was like, not very often do you go to something with an idea of what you expect, and then you're actually see it in person. You're actually, oh yeah, this is exactly what I was expecting. But I really had the experience when I went to the one in Utah, because we had they're like a conference over there. But what happens though is the Sunday gathering services, Jesus Christ, sorry, the Sunday gatherings, basically, literally what it is, it's very similar. You go in, like you have like donuts, coffee, you have a place where you drop off your little rugrats, and they can go back and they have like science lessons they do, whatever they do. And it's just fun for them to hang out. Yeah. Background check the adults, working together in teams, taking care of the kids while the adults can have their own little thing. So typically it starts off, you'll have a musician playing. Now this musician is just playing whatever. It's just like going to a bar or a restaurant. You have a musician playing, and this is an opportunity for musicians and usually these musicians aren't members of the Oasis community. They're just artists from the area, or they'll come in and they'll be playing. And people can tip them. People can do anything just like you would at any other venue. So typically, it's a pretty structured format because they kind of got it down to a science of the best way to approach this. So basically what they do is they'll do a quick opener, welcome. They'll review the core values and that welcome, basically to make sure everybody understands what the whole point is. Hey, we're not, there's no, they go through the core values in a fun way. Then they'll have what's called a community moment. Somebody will come up and share a 10-minute thought for the day. It could be the one I went to. The community moment was given by a speaker, and I still remember it. He was on Martin Luther King Day, and he was speaking on Lieutenant O'Hara in Star Trek. And because I didn't know this, but he was saying Lieutenant O'Hara apparently wanted to quit the show.
Oh, this is a great story. Yeah.
She wanted to quit the show. She was just very discouraged, whatever. And I don't remember all the details, but I do remember at some point, somehow Martin Luther King got connected to her, and she told him that she was thinking about quitting the show. And he said, "You can't quit the show." He's like, "You're making a difference, and when me and my kids sit down and watch you, you're making a tremendous difference in our lives, and also in the movement." Well, she ended up not quitting the show, and then, of course, as most of us know, she went on to have this first kiss with the first interracial kiss on network television
with Luke Skywalker.
I hate you so much. How do I turn your picture to Satan again? Hold on.
It hasn't gone off yet. I'm so happy. It was meant to be.
Sorry.
No, you're good.
I don't know anything about sci-fi.
So anyways, that was the community moment he gave, and it was basically like, hey, like it was kind of like the thought for the day is don't give up on don't cut yourself short in the difference that you can make in people's lives, right? So this is one of the things I liked about it. It's kind of inspirational, and I feel like that we need more of that in our lives sometimes, but not in a woo-woo kind of way. This is a good thought, a good secular based thought that had good application, right?
Yeah. So you specifically are with is it the North Orlando?
Yes.
Oasis, is that it? Okay, can you give us some info about that group in case anyone
to be honest, it's in the early stages, so we are looking for volunteers to get involved. We are let me put it this way: we're very early on involved in it. I actually founded the group about 6 years ago out of a desperation from all this had led me to try to get involved and help and start one of these groups. So I tried to start it. It's been kind of flip flopping. It's been like there's been a lot of reads. I've been going through a lot of just personal stuff and trying to work on my businesses. So I kind of get distracted. But as time has gone on, I actually stepped down from the executive director position, and we have a phenomenal new executive director. Her name is Ruth, and she's doing a great job, and it's kicking butt. Like it's so much stuff is going on. I'm having a hard time keeping up with it. So our plan right now is right now we have a virtual gathering once a month. We have a community service project we do once a month. We have a game morning that we do once a month, virtual game night. And then we have, we do some kind of other activity once a month. So we're kind of doing things on Sundays, getting that flow. And then our goal is in 6 months to start hosting weekly gatherings. So, which requires, we gotta have a band. We gotta have a band of artists lined up every week. 2 speakers every week because you have a community moment. Then you have a main talk, and which is a TED style talk that's given at the end. And you have that musician who's prepared to handle that too. So a musician that's like 3 or 4 songs in their set.
Nice.
But we're looking for people who want to get involved, who just want to check it out. Come check out our Facebook page, North Orlando Oasis, please. That'd be awesome. Follow us on that. We have a private group as well, which we do private stuff as well. Like we share between the two. We have events listed on there, and I'm actually performing this Sunday. I'm actually performing on the acoustic guitar and singing. So, that's basically it. So we have different MC every week from the leadership team, and then we're looking for people who want to just come out and check it out, who want to get involved, and of course, if you were interested in becoming part of the board, we would love to have you. Our goal is to have like 12 to 15 people who can help us with all the administrative work that goes into hosting the weekly gatherings, and then all the other stuff that we're doing. Yeah.
And I think this is an opportunity because to introduce people to this group, but also like I'm in North Florida, so no one cares about us. But Sarah's
You're almost southern up there, Devin.
I'm in Georgia, like 10 miles south of the border. But I mean, Sarah's in Polk County, and there's a huge atheist community in Central Florida, and I think this is like to really, tie into them. There is. Jocelyn and David.
I know.
Yeah.
Like they're a little far away from me, but
are they? Okay.
That is. I don't
understand geography.
That is the exact same thing that we sort of bumped up against when we started our organization.
Oh, because you're south of Orlando.
So like where we are is, or you look at it on the map and like it's a stone's throw to Orlando, but you're not factoring I-4, construction, traffic, all of that stuff. It's an hour drive for us to get to the Central Florida Freethought community, and love them. Like their speaker events are awesome.
Yes.
Really good.
Yeah, and we wanted to get more involved, but like driving all the way out there for a speaker once a month is one thing, but then going back for coffee a couple times a month, and then going back to do a park cleanup, and then going back to do another, like to really be involved in the way that we wanted to be, they were just too far away. So I feel your pain there of like, and then you look around and go, what is there around here? Nothing. So
that's why.
So then you have to start it.
Was Mount Dora Oasis, and I started realizing, like, oh my god, like people are coming, like because we had like over 200 people on our Facebook group, and like they're all over the place. I'm like, well, let's call it North Orlando Oasis.
There you go.
Like,
yeah.
It's like 30 minutes from me, but 30 minutes from a lot of other people who are involved. And the idea there is you could have multiple campuses. In Central Florida, because it is so big, you can have a bunch of different campuses, and Oasis is meant to be a. What I like about it is one of the roles it fills at a church field was the ability to support a lot of pet projects. So we could support, like we're involved in Central Florida Freethought community. We have that shared community. I'm actually a monthly contributor for them. We can raise money for NAMI Orlando, for the National Association of Mental Illness. We can, and this is the power of having secular communities. You can begin to funnel resources and energy and people into different pet projects and grow those things.
Yeah.
Yes.
So.
No, and I think like when you get back to in-person events, doing it online, like still having the online component, if you can do that, that would be great for people who aren't necessarily in the area, but
Yeah.
need that connection.
That's 100%, and that's actually something I firmly like and committed to personally, because I've actually tuned into a lot of Houston Oasis events and watched theirs. I feel like making your events web first is very valuable. So we're actually gonna continue our Zoom as part of our whenever we have in-person events.
Yeah,
So,
I know a lot of groups are really chewing through that right now, of like even with like from local groups all the way up to like the big atheist conventions, we're looking at things like how do we still have that online component, but not to discourage you from coming. Like again, the idea is to get people in a room, you know, shaking hands and hugging and being together in a place and drinking. Being together in a place, and we don't want to discourage that, but we still want to have open that online option for people who can't for whatever reason. So like, how do you balance those?
Yeah, we're literally going to have a table every Sunday, table set up with the live stream going, just live streaming the whole thing.
That's great.
And people who are on the web can be participants to the Q&A virtually. Now, what they can't participate in, like you said, they can't be rubbing elbows and shaking hands, to get to know people. And they and one of the other cool things that's kind of dumb or simple. I'm not dumb, but kind of silly. They just always plan for meetup. I got they plan to meet up for lunch afterwards. So you can't do that if you're coming virtual. So, these are the things I think that people are like, if they can, that, they would like to go. If they can't, it's no big deal, first of all. And if you want to watch, you can watch it virtually and involve that way.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Well, I think I would sort of maybe end on like just a cautionary point, coming back to maybe sort of where we started for the audience. The idea that like we're all cognizant that again, all of these different organizations that sort of function in the same way but might look a little different when you peek in the window. Because we all are at such different places in our journey and have different needs. Beyond that core basic human need. Devin, I think the thing that you were sort of nipping at a little bit earlier is the idea of like, we also have to consider, people who may have some form of religious trauma, right? And so the ceremony of what a church service looks and feels like can be triggering to some people. And that turns some people away. But that's cool too, because there are other organizations that aren't that. Like if you just want to come out and do, a cleanup or feed people or be involved in the activism stuff. Yeah, exactly. Like there are so many options.
I'll also plug that too. I run the Mount Dora Recovering from Religion chapter here.
Awesome.
So
you guys have something in common.
Yes, we just launched the Polk County one. So if you ever need to. If we ever need to join forces in the online world, we can do that.
Yeah,
nice.
But I like what you're saying. There's a lot of these are important discussions for us to have as secular communities. It's important for us to find as many ways as possible to connect together. I think is the most important thing. To find the best way possible just to connect as much as possible. That's not only good for us individually, but it's also good for us as a community. And it's good for the world. I firmly believe that secular values provide the best framework for moving forward as a society. And building communities that fixing the PR problem that atheists have is going to be is like one of the biggest challenges we have.
Absolutely.
When my mom, I love my mom, she loves me. When she found out I was like an atheist, she just was like, it was almost like Richard Dawkins, who says like, I understand not believing in God, but an atheist?
Gasp.
But what if the world could see like atheists out like in like Oasis teas, like cleaning up like a park or distributing food. Atheists have been doing all this the whole time, but it's the PR issue that we have to solve. And that can only come through communities like Oasis and other groups that are in like Polk County Atheists that are finding creative ways to to show a unified front. You know, even though we are all so different. We all have different beliefs. We may not believe in God, but you may believe in crystals or whatever. You know.
Yeah. I like the idea that like religion sort of creates the structure and says, "Come fit into it," and we're sort of trying to create groups that say, "What do you need from us?" And how can we be that for you? Like, how can we create whatever that space is that you need it to be, rather than trying to shove you into some box?
And you can do that when you don't have dogmas and doctrines and gods supposedly telling you what to do, right? You can do that. We have the freedom. Nobody's telling anybody you have to go to Oasis or you have to go to Polk on an Atheist.
Yeah.
This is free. This is, hey, it's like a buddy of mine when I became an atheist. He lived out of town. When he found out became an atheist, he's one of the only atheists I knew personally that when I said I didn't know anybody locally, but I knew people out of town. He was like, "Hey, welcome to being an atheist. Not very many rules. Just have a good time." You know, it's like,
I mean, yeah.
So,
Awesome.
So what do you say, Devin? Do we want to talk about the news? Eddie, do you want to stick around and talk about stuff in the news with us, or do you need to bounce? It's entirely up to you. We won't hold it against you.
I'll hang out for a little bit.
Okay.
Well, yeah. I need to be somewhere 8:30. So
okay.
If you guys are in,
you just let us
Mount
know.
Dora, I'm DJing out there tonight. So
there you go.
Mount Dora DJs.
Mount Dora Atheist DJ.
That's my bedtime, man. I don't. God, Devin, we're so old. I'm gonna be going to bed.
Thank you so much for having me, and this is awesome. Thank you. I was really surprised.
No problem.
Our pleasure. And again, let me just say, like, for you and for everyone else that's out there listening in the state of Florida, really the initial dream of this whole show was to help connect all of the different groups throughout the state, give us all sort of a place to talk about issues, but also to, there's Satan. There she is. She's going to be so mad.
Was that me? What happened?
You were Satan for a moment. Okay, so
good.
but it gives us a place to all come together as groups across the state to talk about issues, but then also like to highlight the work that we're each doing and help you find people who are out there looking for a group to get involved with, and really just to have some sort of like space in media where we could bring voices throughout the state together. So you're welcome back anytime. It was great talking to you. Yeah.
I will say, anybody's interested, go to oasisnetwork.com. The organization just spent they just hired a awesome PR firm to redo the website. The website's beautiful. You actually see my smiling face. I'm actually one of the people on the front page. Nice. So oasisnetwork.com, check it out. If you need more information, if you want to get connected to North Orleans Oasis, please reach out, add me on Facebook, whatever, or message us directly on North Orleans Oasis Facebook page, and we'll get you connected. We'd love to have everybody and anybody get connected in whatever way that you want to get connected. We appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much again for coming in, and we'll look forward to talking to you again soon.
Awesome. Thanks a lot.
All righty.
Bye.
You did it. You succeeded. Oh, well, that was cool.
That was fun.
All right. Yeah. So
we're putting the show together by the seat of our pants. It's working out great.
Literally, I sent a message to him yesterday afternoon and was like, "Hey, what you doing tomorrow night?"
And that was 10 minutes before you messaged, or 10 minutes after you messaged me, like,
what are we going to do tomorrow? Yeah.
Shit. I guess I'm on.
Oh,
I was going to figure out my whole blackout problem. But
but you didn't.
Didn't have time. So yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, like I don't know. I hope I don't come across as disparaging to churchy feeling secular groups, because I don't intend to at all. I just recognize that there are people on different places in their journey and with different needs, and I really like that there are those options, because for a lot of people, like that's their jam, and it is what they need. Great. Like, let's provide that to people.
I think for me, like, I would zoom in. Like
Yeah,
I would be
yeah.
at least get the feel of it before I ventured into somewhere.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Okay, so the news, and we'll try not to spend all night on this. It's already 8:00. The Florida legislative session.
sign die. It's
Hold on.
over.
No. Hold on. Becca bought me a gavel.
No, to make it official, you need
I
to
will
drop a
declare.
napkin.
I will declare this. What do I need?
You need to do the
Oh,
sign
okay.
die
Okay.
handkerchief drop.
All right.
And a gavel.
And we're done.
We're done. Done with this shit.
It's a 60-day sprint. Like
have
I
never
know
been
I
more
keep
excited
saying
in my
this, but I feel like I need a cigarette after that. Whew. Oh my god.
And the crazy thing is like sorry, my dog is.
And I quit smoking too, so that'll tell you something.
And the thing is, like the last week, 2 weeks, there's been nothing that we as the public can do.
Right.
Granted, they've blocked the public more or less all session.
Yeah.
But for those of us that are in Tallahassee that can do things, like there is nothing that we can do. In the past 2 weeks have been beyond exhausting. Just dealing with like the shenanigans,
it's a lot.
the whiplash of like what the bills are doing. There's been so many, I don't know.
Well, let's get into this, but like all of this like nth hour shenanigans, right? Like when you say shenanigans, you're talking about like we wait until somebody leaves the room and then quick everybody vote so that we have the right number of people to that kind of bullshit.
Insane.
Yeah.
It just stupidly.
So the
I don't even remember what that bill was for.
So like, the trans sports bill. Let's start with that, right? So that had been put on the shelf. And you called it. You said that doesn't mean it's done. Like just because they've temporarily postponed it, there's still time for shenanigans. And I quote Devin Graham. And sure enough, you were right. So then they get to looking at this bill for what was it like scholarship charter schools, private school stuff. Yeah,
it was on freaking charter schools, and so it didn't make it through the whole way through the Senate. So that's why we were like, it's dead. I think my internet connection is dying here. It's not going to go anywhere because the Senate didn't make it through the last committee. But what they did is the House passed. Am I losing it?
You're fine. I've got you.
Okay. So, but the House passed their version of it. And so what happened is the Senate, who said before, we're not interested in anything that doesn't pass our chambers, they picked up the House version.
Yep.
It was HB 1475 or something. And it was way more invasive and way more discriminatory than the Senate version was.
Right.
So they picked that up and they added I can't remember what they did. They added an amendment or something. Or they I don't know. It didn't. I don't remember how this even happened. But
because it all happened in a flash.
It happened in a flash, and it was like it didn't end up going through. I can't fucking remember.
Well, you've also had a lot going on with your brain recently.
My brain,
too, so.
I'm off the drugs, but my brain is not doing well.
Yeah.
But anywho, I don't think that's what it was. The Senate didn't pick it up. The Senate just didn't pick it up or whatever.
Right.
So what the House did is they were taking a bill based on charter schools. Fucking charter schools. And they added a 70-page amendment at 11 p.m. at night or something, or, in the middle of the night. Actually, no, they didn't even do that. They found out at 3 p.m. the day that it was going through. So there was an amendment that was added that included the entire thing about the trans sports ban, minus the elementary school bits. Like they took out the ban on elementary school kids. So it was middle school, high school, college.
Okay.
At state schools. And they took out they included the genital inspections, and they actually removed the only way that you could prove that you were allowed to play, or that you were not trans, or that you were eligible to play, was to show your original birth certificate, not your official one, your original that was that was dealt at, like, written
Right.
out within days of your birth.
As a trans person, of course, this is going to be a digression. So
No, absolutely.
forgive me. But I was born in the state of Illinois. And so in Illinois, they require you to have gender confirming surgery before you can correct your birth certificate. So I have to, if I want to change my birth certificate, I have to have corrective surgery. In the state of Florida, you do not. Had I been, oddly enough, I don't. God, I hope they're not listening. In the state of Florida, you don't have to have surgery. That's not a prerequisite. But because I was born in Illinois and your vital records live in the state you were born in, it's so stupid.
They reside in Illinois. Yes.
So I have to go back to Illinois to have that updated. And if I were to do that, what you're saying is my valid legal birth certificate that has now been corrected to show my new gender and name even.
Correct.
That's not valid for the purposes of this.
No,
I have to
it
give
has
them
to
the
be
old original
the
1970 whatever. Yeah.
Yes. So it has to be the original within days of your birth, and that does not take into account people who are intersex. That they don't put that in.
Right.
It doesn't take into account adopted kids. So when you're adopted, they reissue a new birth certificate with your new family or whatever.
Okay.
So if you changed, it doesn't matter. You no longer have your birth certificate from birth because it's been sealed. So if a complaint comes against an adopted kid who isn't even who is not trans, is cis, and just someone wants to be an asshole and make a dispute, they're out. They cannot play sports.
Right.
So
and there's going to be a lot of your daughter sure looks like a dude. Like there's going to be some of that bullshit.
There's going to be some mean girl shit going on.
Yeah.
And so they did this at they filed the amendment, and the Democrats, or the whole House, technically, the people who weren't in the know didn't find out until 3 p.m. when it came up. And so now they're expected to go through all this shit. And
which doesn't give them time to even read what has been
to.
filed. Right.
And they're like, this is a compromise. And I think Carlos Guillermo Smith said something beautiful. It was like, this is not a fucking compromise. He didn't say fucking.
He should.
He should have. This is not a compromise. This is absolutely insane. When you are doing genital inspections on a child, there is no compromise involved. I think I tweeted that out. But yeah, so it passed, obviously. And there was, they didn't listen to 90% of the amendments that were filed by the opposition. They just said you can't do it.
Yep.
It was equally as just infuriating to listen to this debate than it was the first time around. So they've done it again, and I can't even begin to tell you how just disappointing and infuriating and just disgusting it was. And so what they did, and this is going on at I don't know when I texted you about this, is 7 p.m. They immediately sent it to the Senate. So the Senate has to go take it up, which they did immediately. So it's 9 o'clock at night. They're debating this. And the Senate is where the cooler heads reside.
Are supposed to be.
Supposed to be. And almost, not necessarily this session, but it's usually the case. They may take up a controversial bill, but they're going to let it die in committee because they don't want that shit on their record. So there's one senator, Vic Torres, who's I think Orange County.
That doesn't sound familiar, but okay.
Yeah, I think he's Kissimmee, maybe that's it.
Okay.
His daughter was a rep last year, or Amy Mercado, but his granddaughter is a trans girl, and he just gave the most heart-wrenching speech, and he swore in Spanish. It was
wow.
Coño or Coño. He's just Coño, don't fucking do this. Why are you doing this? These are children. And it passed. The charter schools bill passed with the House amendment
stuff writing onto it, right?
So the only thing we had going for us was that there were 3 lines in that 70-some page document that this is so insane. This is like Florida politics at its most insane. Is that it was like the NIL, so it's like name, image, likeness. So there had been Florida was a bit of a trailblazer a couple years ago in that they allowed college athletes to they were going to allow college athletes to use their name, image, and likeness. That's what NIL stands for. To profit off of. Like they can get profits from the schools using them or companies using their faces.
Right.
And it was supposed to go to effect this July. And there was a strike all or a bit of a deletion there, and the adoption of that amendment made it okay to postponed it to 2022. And so you had a ton of college football players, including like Mackenzie Milton, who was like the best player football quarterback that UCF has ever had, and he just transferred to FSU. You had him like just going, what the hell is going on? He was very like out on social media. It's like let kids get paid, let kids play. And then you had all the college coaches and athletic departments fighting this, like veto this bill. So what happened in the middle of the night is that some inner workings happened after the bill had passed that they took off those 3 lines. So now the college players are happy, but all the trans girls cannot play.
Right. Can I sidebar for a second?
Absolutely.
Just to say, I think it's really stupid that we like capitalize on college sports.
Mm-hmm.
If you've known me for any length of time, you know that I am not a sports ball person at all.
Yeah.
But I think it's just ridiculous that it's become such a capitalist. So I have long said that college is a for-profit organization. It's a for-profit corporation, right? It is not an educational institution, and I think you can make that judgment based on how much books cost. Like,
Absolutely.
Let's just start with that, right? But then the fact that they are exploiting players for profit I feel kind of gross about that. Like, I don't know. It's just a thing that I've always felt of because then what it does is it creates this funnel of okay, well now we're going to have to put pressure on high school athletics, and we have these scouts that are going to come and watch high school players because we're trying to recruit for our college because we want to have fuck that all of that shit.
Yeah. It's insane. I don't get it.
I don't either.
But I mean, if
you like to play sports, play because it's fun. Don't all this other stuff is just superfluous bullshit. Anyway, sorry.
I mean, I understand why it is the way it is,
right?
And that
it's
an industry. It's an industry, and it brings in a lot of money for you. A ton of money.
But they shouldn't need it. We should fund it. Anyway, I digress.
America. So yeah, the irony is that the NCAA has been saying that they're going to not host tournaments and events in places where trans sports bans are in place, because technically if a team comes in from out of state with a trans girl on the team, they can't play. That they have to forfeit. So that just goes against all guidelines. If they come to Florida, that is. Once they step in the state of Florida, that person is ineligible.
And so they either remove or bench that person, or they don't play. Is that a choice?
I don't know. There's
are we putting the some other state's school in the position of saying, well, sorry Julie, you can't play. Sucks to be you. We're in the South now.
Exactly. However, they did kowtow to the NCAA and the big deal is we're going to screw the NCAA. We don't care about them. They can do whatever they want. We're not going to let trans girls play. However, they totally kowtowed to the NCAA by allowing this NIL amendment or a bit to be taken off.
Right.
So it's get your shit together. We have 50. I think in the next couple of years we have 56 plus NCAA tournaments scheduled in the state of Florida.
Yeah.
I hope they boycott us.
Cancel them all.
I hope we're boycotted for that. So yeah. So the governor announced that he is going to sign that charter schools bill with specifically going for the trans sports ban, because he wants to protect his daughters, obviously.
Sure.
He will sign this, and it's going to be done on a Fox News town hall. So it's going to be a public event. So
yeah, well, I mean, Governor DeSantis went on Fox News to proudly proclaim that he will be happy to sign this bill as it comes to him.
Screw him. So that was like,
and he's on the short list for Donald Trump's potential running mate in the next presidential election.
Oh my God, my eyes cannot roll in the back of my head any further. It's just not possible. So yeah, so this is like one of many things that have happened in the past 2 or 3 days.
Yeah.
And so yeah, we have a huge voter suppression bill that was just passed today. It's pretty much Georgia.
The
Georgia bill, not quite so bad, but it's still pretty bad. So I mean, the details are crazy, but I think one of the reps, I think Geraldine, no, I can't remember who it was. one of the older black women who's a rep in the House. She said something like, she goes, "This isn't Jim Crow. It's James Crow Esquire." Like,
Ooh.
it was like, that's good. Like,
yeah,
it's just
that
like,
is.
It's just Jim Crow, but it's like put up to be like, oh, we're just putting guardrails on democracy. We had the best election season, the safest elections ever.
I'm sorry, Devin. No. There was widespread voter fraud. I don't know what you're talking about.
That they admitted on the floor did not happen.
Yeah.
But we want to put guardrails in case something will happen.
All of this stuff, everything you've talked about so far is the guardrails in case. We want to block trans kids from playing on girls' teams because are there any examples of that happening? Well, no, but we want to pass that bill so that just in case one day maybe that happens, then we don't want to wait until there's a problem. We want to take care of it now. When have you all ever tried to get in front of any kind of real problem?
Never. They have not. They did not fix unemployment. We have the shittiest unemployment system, especially
in the country.
It came to light with COVID, especially.
Yeah.
And they didn't fix that at all. That was your one job, people. But with the what was I going for? God damn it! I drank too much and I lost my thought. God damn it! I'm a terrible human being. This was
something.
A good one.
Something about. Okay.
The train. Okay, that was it.
Yeah.
So they've always they keep on saying that the FHSAA, which is like the Florida High School Athletic Association,
right?
They're like, we've had trans people playing sports in Florida. It's like, well, can you give us details? Have there been complaints? Well, no, there haven't been any complaints. And it wasn't until the Senate debate that they actually brought out the data, which, 11 trans kids have played in the state of Florida since 2015. 9 of them were trans boys playing on the boys team.
Yep.
They don't have a problem with that. That's totally fine.
Oh, of course not.
There have been 2 trans girls. In 2015, it's the data. It's so old they don't have data on it. But obviously there was no problem because there are no data on it. Number 2, the second one was a trans girl playing on the girls' bowling team.
Bowling. Okay, bowling.
Think of the athletic advantage. Jesus
I
Christ.
do want to answer. We sort of answered it, but not like super directly. Dan asked, "Is this ban exclusively for trans women, or does it include trans men?" And you sort of just touched on that. But like, they only care about if you were born assigned male, then you have regardless of age, by nature of having been born with a penis and declared male at the time of your birth. You have all of these inherent advantages. Yep, exactly.
This is in line with Title IX because
we're
just protecting our girls.
They were talking about and I know they this all changed in the nth hour, but initially, including elementary age kids. Look, if at prepubescence, that's not an issue. Like if you want to make it once they go through puberty, yeah, okay, male testosterone does some things, whatever. Okay, even if I go that far with you. But you weren't talking about that. You were talking about like 5th grade basketball.
You were talking about
for fuck's sake. Right.
Kindergartners.
Right.
Let me pull down your pants, kid. I want to see it.
Yeah.
That's so I screw them all. Screw them all. So yeah, we have a voter suppression bill that passed today. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
And then the transports ban. I can't. There's been just so many that they've rammed through, and I think I sent you the clip, but our favorite representative Randy Fine.
Oh God.
And he just encapsulated everything that is wrong with this session, and thankfully the Democrats, like the I shouldn't say Democrats, the people on the other side, the opposition, picked it up and kept on saying. I'll tell you what they said. So a one rep who is a former school teacher and school board member in I think Miami or something, she asked, "Well, why?" Something about the funding of this bill. It was a school budget bill. It's like, well, what? Why can't the money be used for X, Y? Why aren't you using money for this?
Yeah, why are we using this? Deciding to use the money this way? Yeah, why?
And Randy Fine goes, because we can. And she goes, "You did not just say that to me."
Oh, it was great. I wish we'd had time.
I love you.
I would have pulled that clip to play.
Because
it was like. But again, like Randy Fine, the whole time has been very much like he was like, I don't care what local governments say. Fuck them. We make local governments here. We make the local governments at the state level. We created them. What?
What
dude?
Are you?
It's just so
terrible.
But again, like there is a movement right now of people in power that see government in a way that like the job of government is to do nothing. Their job is literally to do nothing because big government is bad. And so our job is to get elected, hold power, and do nothing. And that's why you saw, McConnell sit on piles. Have you seen how tall these piles of stacks of paper on this man's desk?
So many.
Like, because it's not the government's job to get involved in anything. The government's not. Okay, so then what the hell are we doing here? Like,
why are you so proud of this? Like, why is this a point of pride for you? Like, help me make it make sense.
But then if it's but I want it's not the job of the federal government or the state government or whatever. Okay, but then when the local government tries to do something, no, we can't let you do that. Hold on, whoa, you're getting out of your lane there, city county person.
Stay
like
in your lane.
No, and he said, I don't care what. Cities, like what local municipalities, that I really don't care. I don't talk to them, he said. I haven't talked to school districts. I haven't talked to anybody.
They know my email address. They can call me.
Yeah.
Screw them all.
You also wanted to talk about religious hospitals refusing service.
Yeah.
That's on our list.
So let's just say that
just you and me.
Let's just say that this session has been an utter shit show. The only, I think, victory that we can actually claim is the fact that no abortion bill passed. Or nothing got
victory
through.
In Jesus,
my Savior
forever.
Oh, God. No, stop. Stop now. God damn it.
Becca's sitting off screen here, like just... I fear for my marriage, y'all.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you at all. So yeah. So we, as a state advocacy team, as the co-chairs of the state advocacy team, with American Atheist, we have been wanting to introduce legislation for the next session, which means we need to start now to get this done and build our coalition. But one of the things we want to work on is I think we're gonna have a visitor here in a second. A patient. Oh God, she's here. She sent some
I'm glad I'm not the only one with kids that walk on screen in the middle of a show.
Sappy,
hi, Sappy.
Step back. Okay, do that.
Hey, that's our Facebook moderator in training. You be nice to her. Or YouTube moderator
No.
in training. That's what it was.
No. She's sassier than I am. But
Good. That's what we need.
absolutely. Don't keep you give me that look. So yeah, so we want to try to introduce something that I think people can actually get behind is a patient's right to know or a hospital transparency bill. So we're in the process of building a coalition about this. And anyone listening, if you would like to get involved or you know of groups in your area that you think would like to support this. So the whole idea is that there are medical institutions, hospitals, providers that will not provide care based on their religious or sincerely held beliefs. So,
and
I mean,
at every level of government have been happy to legislate those exemptions into effect that you can do so, and it's not a problem.
Absolutely. But I think if we take this from like the patient's perspective, perspective, I don't know, whatever that word is. So like the obvious example is like, Catholic hospitals won't prescribe contraception or won't perform abortions, even like I can't remember the exact medical term, but like if the mother's life is in jeopardy, they will not perform that induced abortion. So like that, there's people, they may not want to help LGBTQ people because it goes against their religion, and so on and so forth. But there are also examples that are a little less that are more relatable, I guess. Like I think one of the examples was there's a man with testicular cancer who the best treatment he could possibly have was having the testes removed. Right. Plain and simple. That was like the ideal course of action.
And doesn't that seem like just simple medical, like obvious?
Snip,
done.
Get it out. It's done.
Right. And you would do that with any other cancerous anything.
Absolutely. But instead, they treated him with chemo and radiation, which sickened him, obviously, and like it was just excruciating. I think they went through a lot. I don't know if he ended up actually getting the testes removed eventually, but like that's not the best course of action. But because of their religiously held beliefs of like, we need to maintain like the sterility or not sterility, the fertility of this guy, we are going to not give him the best treatment possible. So we want to introduce a bill that would require providers or hospitals, require them to say, like, we don't do X, Y, and Z. We don't
so that going in what you're going to get or not get.
Exactly. Why waste your time, money, your insurance copays on stuff like that? I think we're going to have another child coming in with
as a patient, shouldn't you have the right to know? Oh, is this the rescue?
This is the little guinea pig.
Oh my god!
Our dog is
guinea pigs are so nasty. They're so dirty. We had two. I had two for a while, and they were just gross.
He's really cute.
Yeah, they're cute, but they're. Do you do brain experiments on that?
I could, but
I know you could. I know you could. That's why I asked.
So our dog is like.
Is that your guinea pig?
Like, I'm going to, So yeah. So
Becca's just shaking her head at me.
Becca hates us so much, but yeah. So we're working on building a coalition with like bigger groups that agree with us.
Right. We're trying to do something that's a positive move. That's not like, God, we spend so much time just reacting to bills that are like, God, don't do that. No, that's bad. Stop it. Yeah, we're always playing defense. And like, there are things that, as atheists, as humanists, that we think should happen to improve things for people. And this is one of them. Yeah.
And I think this is I can see this being a little glitch down the road. I think we were talking with Eddie about like normalizing atheism. I don't know if we did that before the show or during the show, like, just getting out there, wearing your gear and stuff. But I mean, I intend for American Atheist in our groups to be spearheading this.
Yeah.
And this it may fail because like people don't want to talk to
It'll
us.
turn. Yeah, it will certainly turn some people away.
It's going to turn some people away.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think this is a worthy cause, and this is something that's worth doing for the people of Florida.
Yep.
Like, I actually give a shit about what.
And it also, one of the things that we did talk about with Eddie was the idea of like, who are we as atheists? Of like, what do we represent? Like, what do we care about? And the PR game of communicating that to people. And this is a way to get out there and say like, hey, here's a thing we care about. Like, regardless of whatever label you want to put on yourself, with atheist, agnostic, humanist, whatever, like, this is the thing we care about, and here's why. And some people will blanch at that, but there will definitely be some people who see this and go, that's interesting. I wouldn't have thought atheists would have. Yeah, and it'll open their minds a little bit, maybe.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. So that's something we have planned for the next year. I think session starts January 11th.
If that's a thing,
my calendar.
Oh my God!
I plan to.
I can't get past tomorrow yet. If you're if you're out there in Florida and this is a thing that you're passionate about, if you're part of another organization, maybe a medical organization, for example, that might want to get in on this conversation,
Chamber of Commerce,
and be part of the Yeah.
I don't care.
Be part of the organizing. Like, if this is the thing you care about, like, let us know. Yeah.
Reach out.
The last two things I want to talk about, sort of go hand in hand.
Oh yeah, tell me.
Well, you were talking about genital inspections earlier, and I couldn't help but think of people like, I don't know, Josh Duggar and Matt Gaetz. So we've been on Gaetz watch for a while.
I think it hit the fan yesterday.
Was it yesterday? Sure did. So the Daily Beast dropped this real hot nugget. I'm just gonna read from the article here. This is a CNN article. Joel Greenberg, central figure in the ongoing investigation into Florida Republican Representative Matt Gaetz, and we talked about this, I don't know, a couple weeks ago, wrote a letter obtained by the Daily Beast, and in that letter that he and Gaetz paid for sex with multiple women, including a minor who was 17 at the time.
And they made her apologize.
The letter was drafted after Greenberg asked Roger Stone, a close ally of former President Donald Trump, for help obtaining a pardon during the final months of Trump's term. Quote, on more than one occasion, this individual was involved in sexual activities with several of the other girls, the congressman from Florida's 1st Congressional District, and myself. Greenberg wrote in a letter in reference to the minor, according to the Daily Beast. Quote, from time to time, gas money or gifts, rent or partial tuition payments were made to several of these girls, including the individual who was not yet 18. I did see the acts occur firsthand, and Venmo transactions, Cash App, and other payments were made to these girls on behalf of the congressman. What the fuck?
I love it. I love the Schadenfreude.
A spokesperson for Gaetz told CNN in a statement Thursday evening, Congressman Gaetz has never paid for sex, nor has he had sex with a 17-year-old as an adult. Politico has reported Mr. Greenberg's threats to make false accusations against others, and while the Daily Beast story contains a lot of confessions from Mr. Greenberg, it does not add anything of substance, and certainly no evidence for the wild and false claims about Rep. Gaetz. In fact, the story,
the insinuation that he was a hot ticket.
Yeah, right.
Just FYI, guys, he got it. Onto the bleachers.
In fact, the story goes some way to showing how Rep. Gaetz was long out of touch with Mr. Greenberg and had no interest in involving himself in Mr. Greenberg's affairs. Greenberg wrote to Stone, "If I get you $250K in Bitcoin, would that help? Or is this not a financial matter? I understand all of this and have taken it into consideration," Stone replied, according to the outlet. "I will know more in the next 24 hours. I cannot push too hard because of the nonsense surrounding pardons. I hope you are prepared to wire me $250,000 because I am feeling confident, Stone later wrote to Greenberg. Jesus Christ.
Damn, Roger. Oh, I love it.
Can I also tell you that, like, I saw a post the other day that was something about, like, hey, do you have school-age children who are interested in, the PAGE program in government? Send us your underage children to come work at the The fuck I would? Hell no.
I'm trying to get my son in the Florida one next year. I'm not gonna lie. It's adorable. It's a really cute thing. But I wouldn't send them to the U.S. Capitol.
No.
No. I want to say that, like, I was at the lobby days, I think a year and a half ago or something, for the Secular Coalition for America. And so, you're at the Capitol and you're going around between all the offices, and Matt Gaetz runs down the stairs of the I don't know, on the House buildings or something.
Mm-hmm.
And there's all people, like all these tourists out in the plaza getting pictures, and some rednecky guy runs up to him, and I say that because I am a former redneck. I can use that
recovering
word.
redneck.
Recovering redneck. And he runs up, he's like, "Hey, Representative Gaetz, I'm a real big fan. Can I get a picture?" And Matt Gaetz could not have given a shit. Like, he's like, "I don't care if you're from Pensacola." Like, he just sat there and rolled his eyes and like, "Just give me your paper." And he was like burdened to like give his constituent an autograph. It was like, oh god, what a dick.
Yeah,
absolute dick. So yeah, that's
yeah. Dick. Hey, final call.
Oh my god.
If you want to chat with us, 253-900-2272, 253-900-2272. Last call.
Someone was ready. I thought someone was ready.
Last call. Nope.
Last call.
But thanks to Linda for calling in tonight and
that was hysterical.
Speaking in tongues with us.
I'll never forget that.
I'm gonna have to pull that clip for later use.
I'll never forget that as long as I live. It was beautiful.
Who is it that does that? Dave Warnock? I want to say Dave Warnock does he? Does that as part of his like speaking, going around doing his thing.
I love it so much.
If you ask him,
weird.
he'll do the speaking in tongues thing.
It's so weird.
And finally, Josh Duggar. Now you'll remember
Schadenfreude.
You will remember former reality TV star Josh Duggar from the 2700 Kids and Counting or whatever the fucking show was called.
Poor vagina.
Right. Well, so there was a whole thing with him and his sisters, plural. I don't know. There was a whole thing with him and
it was like 4 sisters and a family friend.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now
I know all this info.
Now he's been arrested on federal charges relating to possession of child pornography,
which should be materials related to child abuse.
Yes. I like that. Okay, I'm gonna write that down. Materials related to. I like it. Okay. Duggar allegedly downloaded material that depicted the sexual abuse of children under the age of 12. Now, I mean, if you don't know who the Duggar family is, like, I don't know, like, you've been living under a rock, apparently. I don't know. But, like, this is the Quiverful movement, the idea that, like, your role as a woman is to just pop babies out, and, yeah. And boy, did she.
She did. Oh,
Jim Bob, and what was her name? Michelle Duggar. God, I'm sad that I remember that shit. And so then they rewarded these people with a goddamn TV show where they shared their wonderful exploits of living in the 1800s or whatever these people do, right? And
I hate it.
And that went on for a long time, and then it came out that Josh did some inappropriate touching of some of his sisters and a friend.
That's something that it's not supposed to happen. I'm gonna say.
Yeah. So Duggar, Josh Duggar's family was the subject of TLC show 19 Kids. This is from CNN. 19 Kids and Counting. It was only 19. But now they're on to like grandchildren and stuff now, and they're still counting. Faces 2 charges, the indictment shows. 1 count of receipt of child pornography and 1 count of possession of child pornography. He faces up to 20 years in prison, fines of up to $250,000 if convicted, the statement says. And I believe I read somewhere else it was $250,000 per charge, like per offense. So if they hit him with like, oh, you had 100 counts of whatever, like that's multiply that. Duggar was arrested in Arkansas Thursday. He appeared in federal court Friday via video conference, pleaded not guilty to both charges. Quote, we intend to defend this case aggressively and thoroughly. In this country, no one can stop prosecutors from charging a crime. But when you're accused, you can fight back in the courtroom. And that is exactly what Josh intends to do. Duggar's attorneys, blah, 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 said.
Oh, good Lord. Come on.
Um,
they had reason to do this. They wouldn't put a high celebrity through this without having some more than the usual amount of evidence.
So the show was canceled in 2015.
Thank the sweet baby Jesus.
And that's when the whole thing came out initially that Josh had molested girls when he was a teenager, and he was never charged in that. And the whole thing around that was like this is a great example, I think, of like that you get the Christian exemption bullshit of like, well, we're going to handle this internally and turn it over to the Lord, and we're going to let our church take care. No, bro, you broke a law, and this is the thing that this is what happens in this country when you break laws.
Bring it into the sunshine. Wish they lived in Florida for this.
Jim Bob and Michelle posted a statement on their. How can you? I'm sorry, I shouldn't say that. That was I shouldn't
say it.
How do you
homeschool message board?
How do you look in yourself in the mirror and go, Jim Bob? Posted a statement on the family website about the, quote, very serious accusations Duggar is facing. Quote, we appreciate your continued prayers for our family at this time. The accusations brought against Joshua today are very serious. It is our prayer that the truth, no matter what it is, will come to light, and that this will all be resolved in a timely manner. We love Josh and Anna and continue to pray for their family, they said.
Oh,
so
we all love Josh and Anna.
Here's the thing. Like, every time this topic tends to come up, I think I probably exist in a space of having an unpopular opinion. And I know that there are other people in the movement who also speak on this topic, who take a ton of shit for having an unpopular opinion. But I think that we're going to find through science, through a better understanding of what makes people work and how they're wired, that there are some people who are just wired and attracted to pubescent, prepubescent, whatever, human children.
I agree.
I think we're going to find that there are some people who are just that way.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree with this. I don't think it's something that you say, this is what I like. Like, it comes out of the blue. I think.
Right.
Because there are other options.
Right. And there's like feeling this type of way and then acting on this type of way. And those are two very different things. And if we're talking about children being harmed, then that's a problem. Full stop. Problem. Right. And I'm with you to that point. I think where we're missing the boat is on the front end of that. Like, if we were able to identify people who have these attractions and help them through it,
can help them
in some way so that they don't go and molest a child or take pictures of videos of kids and send them back and forth. Like, I think we're not approaching this in a humanist sort of way. We're approaching this in a, oh boy, aren't you just an awful garbage person and terrible human being, and we should just lock you up forever and forget about you because you're a monster. You're a literal monster. Well, they used to say that about gays too, and now we've come to understand better about them. And so I'm not saying that like adult dudes should be having any kind of sexual whatever with minors, but like we need to acknowledge that it's a thing that exists in the human condition and figure out a better way to address it.
And I think there also needs to be a better way of addressing it post conviction, or like,
what are we gonna do to help this guy not be
perpetuate this action? Like when we this is going to be unpopular, but we stigmatize, and maybe rightly so, we stigmatize pedophiles. I know there's a better word, hebephiles.
So there's pedophiles is like an attraction, and pederasty, I believe, is the well, technically against boys, but like is the actual act of.
Yeah, and then there's like hebephilia.
Hebephilia.
Hebephilia, and that's like I think that's the actual term.
A lot of it depends on the age too.
Okay.
I think.
Okay, but
anyway,
regardless, once we find these people, they did wrong, they do their punishment, and they don't get treatment later on.
No, we let them out into the world again.
Stigmatize the shit out of them. You can't be anywhere near society.
Yep.
There has to be a way to help them, and also, I don't want to say integrate them back into society, but help them in a way
to function in society in a non-harmful way. Yeah.
They can be functional.
Yeah.
They can, be upstanding citizens, or contribute back to the society.
Yep.
I know that's a lot of people.
A lot of people are screaming at the computer right now at you and I.
No,
a lot of people are like, how dare these people? We should hang them upside down by their penis and whatever. Like, and I get it.
I totally get it. I totally understand. But at the same time, like it's just like I think it's the humanist in me, or like I'm empathetic. People think I'm an ass and a bitch, and I'm
and
total
you
ass.
are.
Yeah. I am, but I'm also extremely empathetic. Like, 2 seconds after that guy hit me, I was like, oh, this poor guy's got to live with this shit.
Yeah.
That's just,
it's interesting because I feel this way about, all kinds of people. Like, okay,
totally.
So you committed a murder. Now, do we as a society just deem you as a wasteful garbage person and throw you away forever? We can, and we tend to. Like, again, we do not have a rehabilitative system at all. We have a very punitive system of you did the wrong thing, and so now we're going to take you away from society and put you in the corner, and don't do it again. You should learn from this, this punishment.
Suppress those urges. It doesn't work. It doesn't work, and I think we've gone through this like over and over and over again. That we need a better way to rehabilitate all people from like whatever issues they've had, and I think that includes people who like commit acts against children.
Yeah,
we can't just say let's rehabilitate the murderers or the rapist and whatever, the drug the people that are addicted. No, we've got to rehabilitate everybody. I think that extends to all humans. I don't. In no way whatsoever do I agree with what they've done. I don't condone it. I hate it. I fear.
Absolutely.
I fear it.
And I'm angry about it.
I'm
super mad. Yep.
But there has got to be a way to make them better people and functional human beings in a society.
So here's the thing that made me go off on that. Like, people are going to hate my opinion on this tangent. This thing with Josh Duggar. Right. The thing with his sisters and other girls happened in 2015. Had we had some system of intervention to be able to take him and be like, hey, we recognize that you have this thing about you that, look, I'm sorry, society, in civilized society, we have decided that this is not an okay thing for you to do. And now here is whatever the prescriptive plan is to help you manage that for the rest of your life so that you don't feel like you need to act on this urge ever again. Then perhaps this 2019 thing wouldn't have happened and then come to light this week. I don't know. I don't know that that's for sure true, but I can tell you that we made zero effort in 2015 or 16 or whenever it was. We made zero effort to try to turn this guy around.
I think the backstory on that is Jim Bob took him to a policeman to confess, but the trooper that took that confession was actually arrested for child porn a couple years later.
Oh gosh!
And so he never reported what Josh told him, and it was kind of like a
and they sent him they sent him to a religious rehabilitation counseling whatever program.
We
that
know how that
didn't
goes.
work. Right. Right.
Yeah, because he went on Ashley Madison not that long ago. He was
Right.
one of the Ashley Madison people and
Yeah.
beat up a sex worker. Like,
Right.
I believe.
Oh, can I
He
make a
has the
comment?
problem.
Can I make a comment about that too?
Mm-hmm.
Go back
Real
on that.
controversial tonight.
Let's make it go back on that. Sex work is work. Sex workers
Absolutely.
are people. They're valid. Like,
Love them.
you're not on the streets or whatever. Like it is, and we should be following the what's it called? The not Danish.
The Amsterdam.
Yeah, just that whole region, whatever the hell it's called. That we should be following their whole model in that, huh?
Flemish.
No, it'll come to me. Like there are places in Europe that are like creating public safe places for you to like drive to and to hire a person to be intimate with, and like they provide medical testing at this facility, and they provide safety and security at this facility, and like which we should all be doing. Nordic. That's the word I was looking for. The Nordic countries.
The Nords.
Anyway, so send your angry letters to Devon at FIF.show.
Whatever.
People are gonna hate us for this.
I don't care. But I think it's something we need to discuss and explore further, because just whatever, just letting them go and telling them they can't they can't
just
be within.
Don't do it again. Right.
Don't do it again, and just
don't go near
stay
schools.
Isolated.
Right.
Stay isolated forever. It's not
working.
That's not helping. It's not helping.
Yep. Yeah. And lock them away forever isn't going to work either. Like, we've got to find solutions to. Our options are lock them away forever or kill them. Like those. That's what this. We get our rocks off about that in this country. Especially in the South.
Yeah, we love a good execution.
And like, okay, I haven't gone through it. Right? Nobody I love has been murdered. And I can imagine being someone who, someone that I love has been murdered, and I would sure want to murder you the fuck back. You bet I would.
I want revenge.
Bet I would. But when we're having this conversation in a non-emotional state where we can really sort of pull back and look at all of the issues, like, I think there's better ways.
There are better ways.
Anyway, Devin at FIF.show for all your hate mail.
Do I have an email address like that? Okay.
No.
Okay,
If they send it to that email address, it'll come to me anyway. But all emails come to me.
I'm easy to find. It's Florida. I'm out there. I don't give a shit.
Oh, that was one thing we were going to talk to Eddie about that we didn't really get into. The idea of like not. Well, you'll notice that we used his first name, but the idea of like not wanting to be known. And I went through that. Like I went through a time where I was not using my real last name. Just because you as a trans atheist in the middle of Polk County, you just don't know.
A target. You're a target.
Yeah, you just don't know what you're going to get.
Yeah. I figure we live in Florida. You can find anything about it.
Everything's in the sunshine.
Everything's in the sunshine.
Everything's in the sunshine.
Now, but
it used to be. All right. Well, let's call it a night. What do you think? Have we done? Did we do it?
I think we did it.
Did we do enough damage for one night?
I think we did it. I keep on sliding off all my pillows, my pillow chair here.
Yes. So a big thank you to all of our patrons who support the show. Thanks to everybody who tuned in and was chatting up in the chat room, except for maybe one. We very much appreciate all of you for being here, and we need our moderator to get trained up soon. Hey, whatever, I'll take it. She'll probably do a great job. Like she's sassy. She'll tell them.
She is so
straighten him right out. So if you want to become a patron like all of our other wonderful patrons, you could go to patreon.com/polkatheists. That's another great way to support the ongoing work of the show. Again, we're saving to replace this computer that doesn't have the processing power that it really needs to have, and and is about to die because the battery is garbage. And hey, it was a gift, so like it got us through to where we are, and now we'll go from there. But patreon.com/polkatheists, we have to pay for the phone line and all of that stuff too. So that's the kind of stuff that your money goes towards.
Fees. My huge appearance fees.
Right.
I'll get that check someday.
Right. No money goes to Devon. I can tell you that.
It shouldn't. No money should ever go to me. I'm the worst.
We may have to pay your medical bills, so
I'm fine. I'm fine. Look at me. I'm here.
Okay. Next, what else do you have? What do you got coming up? What do you got going on? It's Secular Week of Action is kicked off.
Ooh, we have. I was busy. I didn't get that much done. We were trying to do some. We're trying to do donations for the Big Bend second harvest of the Big Bend, which is like the food distribution center here. It's desperately in need of things. My family is going to be going to go to sort stuff next week, so I guess that counts.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I've been a little bit sidelined.
Yeah, you have been busy. Resting.
Things happen.
We have a whole ton of shit happening.
You do.
And some of it is like our regular ongoing stuff, like the work with the food pantry and feeding folks who are experiencing homelessness and all of that kind of stuff that we normally do. But tomorrow morning, and that's I believe why Becca is sitting next to me, like watching her watch. Yeah, monitoring my drinking and watching the clock. Tomorrow morning, we're all going to get together in Winter Haven at one of the billboards that we're going to be kicking off this week.
By Legoland?
Yes, right by Legoland. It's at the, what hotel did I say? It's right outside the Courtyard by Marriott. And so we have three designs. They say, one of them says good without God, the other community without church, and fellowship without faith, right? And the idea is to just sort of communicate like a lot of the things that we talked about tonight, that that atheists are good people and we value community and togetherness just like everybody else does. We just don't need all the magic and the woo and stuff that comes along with it. And so that's sort of what the billboard campaign is about, and to help bring awareness to the community service work that we do. So we're going to do that in the morning and have some donuts and hang out with some people and try to get a selfie. It's one of the electronic billboards, so it like cycles through every 7 seconds.
You got to be ready.
So we're just going to all stand out there under the billboard, like posing, waiting for the thing to flip so that we can take a picture. I guess that's how it's going to work.
Blank.
And then we're going to go across the lake to a blueberry farm and do some blueberry picking. So that'll be a fun little.
That's not humanitarian.
It's
just fun.
That's the community. You see,
That's the community.
We don't get together and sing songs and stuff, but we do fun stuff like that, like go out and blueberry picking is the thing that we've done. I don't want to say almost every year, but almost every year now since we started.
I'm jelly of that.
It's fun. And then there's a cleanup on Sunday with me in Haines City, and then Tuesday morning I have to give a secular invocation at the Polk County Board of County Commissioners, which is and I always pick this week. I'll tell the story again, but I always pick this week because it is the week of the National Day of Prayer. Legislators have again, Rep. Raskin has filed the
Day of Reason.
Yeah, the Day of Reason. So go look for those action alerts and fill them out to encourage your legislators to sign on to that. The idea being that like, we don't need a National Day of Prayer to start with, and like a real big swath and growing swath of this country is less and less religious by every time a new study comes out. And so those of us who do not, turn to prayer, we turn to things like logic and reason. And so that would be a much more appropriate way to spend our time. Anyway, so I always pick that as a time to do my annual invocation at the Polk County Board because it gives me an opportunity to sort of bring a humanist, atheist perspective to that.
The anti-woo.
This past week, I was on the Sacrilege cast, and that was a lot of fun with Zach.
Yes.
I had a great time chatting with him. And then I was also on Gayish, which is
You listen to that.
it's so you're gonna love it. You'll howl laughing. The premise of that was like, we're gonna ask Sarah, and I consented ahead of time. There was consent involved.
You knew what you were going to answer.
We're going to ask Sarah all the questions you should never ask a trans person. Like the most inappropriate questions we can come up with. We're going to ask Sarah about. So if you want to know more about my bits, you could probably tune into Gayish podcast. But don't ask your trans friends about their parts. Don't do that.
You don't ask anybody else about it.
That's
so
not appropriate. Yeah.
It's not necessary.
Don't do it. Next week on the show, we have Leonard Pressburg, who is the founder and president of the Association of Secular Elected Officials, which is another organization that's sort of trying to champion you secular atheist people, to run for office and get involved and represent the rest of us, because we don't have representation right now.
No, we do not.
So that's it. Do you have anything else? Any other thoughts?
I don't think so.
Things
I'm
going on?
okay. I have nothing else going on with my life. It's fine.
You're feeling a little better, at least?
Absolutely. Look at me.
God, you lie so poorly.
Look at that bruise. It's not.
No, that looks a lot better.
And like I can't even tell. Like the nose, and then it's really good. I'm not going to show you my legs because they're not that great right now.
And on that note, we'll call it a day. And that's it for Freethought in Florida. I don't know what else to say.
Good day.
Yeah.
Signed I.
Good day. Oh, hold on.
Okay. Gavel. Yes.
I don't know how well that comes through. I may need to mic it. All right, well, that's it for this week on Freethought in Florida. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Thanks to the patrons for patroning. Thanks to everybody who chatted with us in the comments section for the most part. Freethought in Florida is available on YouTube, Facebook, and popular podcast players. You can find all the subscribe links and everything else at fif.show. Send us an email to info@fif.show or hate mail to devon@fif.show.
Yeah.
Please like, subscribe, share out the episodes, and help us reach a broader audience. And of course, remember the 3 most important things: wash your hands, wear your mask, and be kind to each other.
Do it.
Be safe, everybody. We'll see you next time on Freethought in Florida.